election date has been officially announced at last.
Tony Blair, devolution, minimum wage, all in it for themselves anyway.
Trivial stuff.
About the timing of local and national elections, but he is not focusing.
And the parties can begin to get down to campaigning in earnest. Despite the excitement surrounding the announcement, there's a spectre hanging over this campaign, the spectre of apathy. We could be looking at the lowest turnout ever. Well, there's a surprise. Andrew Marr, BBC News, Downing Street. You love this stuff, don't you? Andrew Marr, BBC News. Politics jolly important. Politics matters, chest in, tummy out, big ears, big issues. But I suppose you have to believe it, don't you? Otherwise, you'd have to find yourself another job. I can almost hear you thinking. Hi, yep, I'm just through. I'm on my way back, but I'm going to go and have a quick something to eat first. All right? Okay, thanks. Bye. Come on, admit it. There is a part of you that knows the truth, isn't there? What's the only party that's gaining members week by week? What's the only growth area in politics? It's the why bother party. It's the don't give a monkey's party. It's the party of ordinary people who can't be bothered. No, people out there are way ahead of you lot. They know it's a corporate world. Hey, remember him? Had the grass Mohican on, all the kids digging up Parliament Square to stop the city riots, yeah? And it's always something like that. It's the Countryside Alliance or the fuel protesters. And why? Because time and time again, they just think democracy's failed. No, what you're talking about is direct action. It's always gone on. No, the real killer is apathy. Why are they apathetic? Because they're not thinking. They're taking democracy for granted. Wrong. They are thinking. They're thinking that the system is not delivering. Could you drop me off here, please? Because the parties are divided, I don't know what my local candidates think. How am I going to discover what they'd actually do? Here's a radical suggestion. You could get off your backside and ask. OK, but what about all the other non-party stuff then? What about the environment? What about drugs? What about abortion? What about gay rights and nuclear weapons? Is that going to be in your election too?
Opposite would scrap every single one of those measures.
Some councils now spend more on bogus asylum seekers than they spend on looking after
Nailed
their
in the
elderly.
coffin to villages and rural communities, the length and
Anyway, they're all lying, incompetent bastards. Who are? They are. Them, that lot in there, obviously. Why bother listening to what they say when you know they're not going to deliver on their promises? Oh, for goodness sake. Margaret Thatcher and the trade unions. Said she'd do them, did them. Tony Blair, devolution, minimum wage. Trivial stuff to you, I suppose. Well, they're all in it for themselves anyway. Sitting around, trousering vast sums of money. Cheap nonsense. The best of them will be earning an awful lot more outside than in politics. And almost all of them are earning less than the very same journalists who accuse them of being greedy. And finally, some news just in. Westminster has been declared a sleaze-free zone. Yes, all those reports of brown envelopes, cash for favours and fat cat socialists are just malicious gossip made up by greedy journalists. Oh, stop it. That's not what I'm saying at all. Of course there's sleaze, there's scandals. But as for corruption, this remains one of the least corrupt political societies in the world, which is why we get so excited about it when it does happen. But saying that a few bad MPs is a good reason not to bother to vote is like, What? It's like, I don't know, it's like reading about some medical scandal in a hospital hundreds of miles away and saying, right, that's it, I'm never going to visit the doctor ever again. It's just bonkers. If doctors had the same success rate that politicians do, doctors bury their mistakes, right? The difference is that the victims of politicians' mistakes can get up, and vote them out again. And that terrifies them. A frightened politician. I like the sound of that. Well, it's true. Once every 4 or 5 years, they have to listen to what you think because you could cost them their jobs. So they're obsessed, they're really obsessed with what people are thinking. No, they're not. They're not even listening. It's all very well for you with your microphone and your camera, but how does anyone else get to them? Well, they come to you, don't they? All those people with rosettes knocking on the door. Don't pretend to be running the bath. Let them in. Talk to them. This is your chance. And if they don't come to you, go to them. Use local radio phone-ins, public meetings, heckle, hassle, be a bit stroppy. I think I'll go for the bath. Listen, that's fine. I think we should try one more time. Get it down to 15 seconds. Sorry everybody. Sorry. Only me. Oh, what now? Even if I do all those things that you suggest, if I get involved in all of that, in the end, it doesn't matter because all the parties are the same. Now, I know that you haven't been listening. What about the Conservatives and Europe, for instance? The most Eurosceptic policy of any major party for years. Big differences there with the Lib Dems and the Labour Party. Or tax, who pays and how much? Public services, or who runs our schools, or asylum seekers, or the environment. Look, I suppose if you don't pay tax, if you have no views on the shape of the country or the country's position in the world, if you're not interested in schools, hospitals, if you don't use roads or trains, then yes, I agree, you should not vote. But on the other hand, you wouldn't be allowed to vote, would you? Because you would be an earthworm. Come with me. Do you know how many democratic general elections there have been in this country since this woman and the suffragettes were chaining themselves to the railings for the right to vote? A history lesson. It's only in 1928 that women finally get the right to vote, well within the lifetime of a lot of people going to be voting in this general election. Not so long ago, since ordinary middle-class women were going on hunger strike and having tubes stuck down their throats for the right to vote. This thing has not been going on for so long. It's very rare. It's rare historically and it's rare geographically. We're lucky. Stay lucky. There's no need to look at me like that. You almost had me convinced there. All that history, lump in the throat stuff. Very moving. And you're right, we are lucky, but our luck's run out. Parliament's powers have been sucked away. Europe, devolution, judges. Either you believe this democracy is worth fighting for, or you don't. Whether the fight's against European bureaucrats, or global business, or complacency, or whatever, you've got a choice. You either bury your head in the sand, or you get involved. But it's not, it's not about Westminster. It's not about the building. It's democracy. That's inside our heads, or it's not there at all. Which just happens to mean listening to you. No, I'm not saying that. I'm not saying listen to the BBC. I'm not saying listen to me, but don't ignore the election.
Don't listen to me. Waited a long time to hear that. Who are you talking to?
Nobody. I just talking to myself. But not entirely.